it's just like psychology, social skills, and I think I'm just inspired by like whatever I see. I was just looking at the window before we even started the podcast, and just looking at how like the sun is just like about to go down, and the the outside looks yellow or orange, and
Right.
that's art. Art could be anything, right? And then from
That's
then
nature's
on, it's
art.
just what's that?
That's nature's art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
natural. It's art is natural. And it's just like me wanting to learn more of the technical things like the settings and this and that, different lightings. To me, it's a lifetime thing. It's a lifetime journey because
Right.
there's so many things you can learn with photography. And then for me, being single, it definitely helped me a lot to just focus on and nurture my passions instead of, like paying attention to another human being. I'm like here nurturing what I enjoy the most and what I really like. So being single definitely helped me a lot. And yeah, it definitely helped me a lot to just nurture my passions.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest. She's a Bay Area native, a photographer, and she's passionate about alternative medicine, fitness, philanthropy, plant medicine, and travel. And she's the former co-host of the Bliss Seekers. Please welcome back to the podcast, Just Joe or Joe.
JHO.
Please welcome back to
Yes.
the podcast, Joe, aka JHO. Or
What's up?
hey, how's it going?
Hey.
So this is kind of interesting podcast for us because Joe is coming back on because she wants to share her story of what she's doing now, how she's following her bliss, and she also gonna share with us what she got and learned from being a co-host of the Bliss Seekers for about 9 months. Um, but anyways, good to see you again. I see that nice little logo behind you.
Yeah, I mean, let me see. I don't want to disappear, but it says Artcation.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
It's yeah. Let's see the crown right there, and you see the camera lens right there.
Yeah,
So basically, travel, photography, philanthropy, all together.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. So Dion was on the podcast a couple, podcasts ago, and she talked about
Mm.
it. And I know you guys had been doing this or been planning this or have been talking about this. When did you guys actually get the idea again for Artcation?
Honestly, maybe like 6 years ago.
Okay.
I was out in the East Coast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we should totally do this. Go travel, take photos, and then we want to help people, this and that, figure out different ways how to contribute to the community. And I wasn't always a focused person. I've always had a lot of distractions, and it's always been me like going to different directions of what I should be doing. At the same time, I knew I wasn't ready during that time, um, like mentally. So in a way, it planted a seed in me throughout the years.
Okay. So
Yeah,
the seed was planted maybe 5, 6 years ago, but
yeah,
you needed some time to grow in the soil.
yeah.
And now here it is. You got the beautiful logo. So when do you think is going to be the first Artcation trip?
It will be in Guatemala, so it'll be either the end of August or sometime in September this year.
Wow, that's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been talking to I got in contact with the volunteer directors of Niños de Guatemala in Guatemala. So we just been planning some stuff, and with the whole everything that's going on, the pandemic, like it's like you got to just take the leap because
Yeah,
you don't know what the hell's going to happen next year. So a lot of things that's been going on, like 2020, now it's 2021. It's just like, man, it's just time to get going. Just
yeah,
do it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's exciting. I know, like you said, you guys have had it for a while, and now is the time, better than ever, to just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And obviously, you were a host of the Bliss Seekers. You started it with me. We started together, just you and I, and then there was a team, and we got to about 40 episodes. Is being part of the Bliss Seekers, was that kind of a help or way to like motivate you or get you feeling like now it's time for me to do this Artcation thing and do something on my own in any way?
Yeah, it's in a way it's like every person that's been a guest, everybody is just in their own path, it's just like, wow, these people are helping, the community, this and that. It definitely inspired me to like, like really dig deep. It's like, if I were, let's say if I were to die next week, what would I do? What would I rather do now? I'm gonna like get on the plane and go to Guatemala, you know what I mean? And I definitely draw like, I've gotten a lot of inspiration every time we sit on that table doing the podcast and talking and listening from everyone's experiences. um it's very inspiring, and we don't know what's going to come out of people's mouths, but like it's always that sharing of experiences and connections, and what they've been through in life and how they got there. It always definitely, it's a motivation for me.
So you used all of these stories and these and the people's journey to kind of say, hey, I think it's time for me to start my own journey.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it gave me that extra push, like, Joe, take a good look at your heart. And like, if you, like I said, if you were to die next week, I'm not saying I will, but like, what would you do right now? What would you jump onto?
Yeah.
And everyone's in their own paths. And it's just, in a way, they definitely help me get to that extra step and to just doing it, taking a leap.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Like, it's a little crazy, but it's funny because you always ask people that question, if you had 48 hours to live, what's
Yeah.
the first and the last thing you do, right? So in a way you kind of asked yourself the question, but not in
Mhm.
that way. It's like, hey, if I was gonna be, if I wasn't gonna be living too much longer, what would I
Mhm.
rather be doing right now with my life? And so it kind of inspired you to do the Artcation.
Yeah, because think about it, right? Like we gone through 2020, like all of us together, and then okay, we're here at 2021. It's like things are changing for sure, but like, man, like I do ask myself, where would I go? What is the first thing I would go? And what would I do? And definitely it just everything just aligned pretty much, you know?
Yeah. And that's awesome. And I'm really happy for you. And obviously, the whole point of Bliss Seekers is we want to inspire people to find their true purpose and follow their bliss. And
Yeah.
if we're not doing it, then, what are we doing? Right. So it's
Yeah.
exciting. I'm excited for you guys. I know it's going to be great. And you've already been to Guatemala, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've
Yeah.
been there. I've been there 2019. I traveled by myself and basically discovered what
Pretty
I
brave.
discovered.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I had a Google Translator app, and
Yeah.
I made sure AT&T, like I need to do international calling or texting. You got to get that on point before you travel out of country. So I had an intention. I was like, man, I want to do some volunteer work while I'm out here. I only had 10 days, and this is all the things I want to do. And one of them is do volunteer work. So I met this American woman who actually does volunteer work for them. And I met her, she gave me information, and I reached out to Niños de Guatemala. It's basically a nonprofit school. And so I went there. I just fell in love, but I wish I had more time, but I just knew in my heart that I was going to come back there
Yeah.
and do much bigger things.
Yeah. And so now it's what, 2021. So it's 2
Yeah.
years later, right? Look at that magic. Boop. 2 years later. And here you are. You're going to be heading back. What
Mhm.
month was it that you went in 2019?
It was it May, June? I think it was May, June, because I remember I went to Guatemala, right? I went to Guatemala, and then I think I went to Chicago and then the Philippines. I think it was May. Yeah, I think it was definitely May,
Okay.
June. Yeah,
So like
around
right
those
before
time.
summertime.
Oh yeah, yeah, May, June. It was definitely May, June.
Okay.
Yeah,
And now you'll be going in maybe August, September.
yeah. I would have gone next last year, but I knew it was in the right time. Obviously, a pandemic and all that stuff happening, and we're meant to do the podcast, so during that time.
So you guys are gonna work with something called the Niños of
Niños de Guatemala.
Guatemala.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
non-profit organization out there.
So what
Yeah.
does the Niños de Guatemala do?
So it's basically a school. It's a nonprofit school. They basically how this whole thing started is this man from Netherlands. He went to Guatemala one time and he saw a girl with no pair of slippers. So that inspired him to go back and basically start this whole school called Niños de Guatemala. It's a school,
Okay,
nonprofit. Yeah.
nice. And what is Artcation going to be doing with the Niños de Guatemala?
So I spoke with them, and it turns out that me and Dion spoke with them, and it turns out they actually need media, which is what we do. I
There
do
you go. All right.
photography, and Dion does photography as well, and she does video.
Yeah.
So they need that, and my intention is to basically use my gifts and my talents to cause awareness all over the globe. And I want to start with Guatemala and basically bring them exposure and let everybody know what they need help on. Also, we are gonna be doing a Kickstarter. Once we got everything online, and they're gonna give us a wish list on what they need, and we'll do everything we can to get the support and help that we need, so we can provide like proper nutrition meals or like tablets for all the kids so that they can continue studying, because right now the schools are closed. The only thing that's closed is schools and movie theaters. Everything is open.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So as the kids really need education, they need to be learning during this time.
Yeah, dang. So you guys are going to go there, you're going to support and give them the biggest thing they need, which is exposure and media.
Yeah. So it's funny because I remember you kept saying like find a problem and then like
Find a
basically
solution.
find a solution, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's basically what we're doing. Like when I spoke to them, they said they're gonna give us a wish list of what they actually need.
Wow.
That's basically what we're doing. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, so that's going to be the first 2021 trip for Arcation. Do you guys have any other ideas or trips or countries you might want to visit in 2021
Um,
or next?
you know, Mexico for sure. I
Peru?
definitely want to see yeah, I definitely want to see the Mayans, the pyramids.
Yeah,
I'll definitely invite you guys on that one.
that's right. Yeah,
Right? I mean, right now, I just want to focus on Guatemala right now, but definitely Mexico is on the list. Asian countries, and we definitely want to do something in the United States, because this is our country, and there's a lot of kids out there that needs help as well. But yeah, right now Guatemala and then Mexico probably will be the next one. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we get a second one in at the end of the year.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I heard. I was reading something on the internet. It said that December is actually one of the best times to go to Cancun or Mexico, even
Yeah.
though it is the busy season. It's one of the best times weather wise and all that kind of stuff. So I think the hurricane season is just ending right after that.
That's
Even though,
perfect then.
yeah, even though there hasn't been a hurricane in Cancun in like there's been two in the last 30 years. So it's not that
Mm,
big of a deal. But well, that's awesome. And so Artcation is you and it's Dion,
yeah.
Dion Renee. And Dion
Mhm.
Renee is actually our graphic designer. So I'm sure she created that awesome
She did. She
graphic,
did. It's
right?
beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
dope. That's a beautiful graphic.
She's a really great graphic designer. Like she does logos, amazing logos.
Yeah,
Shout out to Dion.
yeah, that's awesome. I
Mhm.
really like that one. And she obviously
Yeah.
created the Bliss Seekers, graphics and all that stuff. So
Mm.
shout out to Dion. Thank you, Dion, for all the awesome and amazing work you do. And by the way, if you guys are new to this podcast, make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button. It really helps us out, and tap that little notification bell because it'll let you know when we have a new podcast. And if you're wondering why I have a Hawaii background, I didn't mention this that much in the last couple podcasts, which I should have, but I'm actually in Hawaii. So this is kind of like Bliss Seekers Hawaii. Joe's in the Bay Area, but
Mm.
now that Joe is moving on to follow her purpose and her bliss, and her and Dion are getting together to create Artcation, she has Artcation as her background. So
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, so that's great. That's exciting. And let's talk a little bit about the Bay Area and photography, because I know people got to know you in the first episode, but that's
Mm.
40 episodes ago. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But just, I guess, talk a little bit about, the Bay Area, how you grew up, and then how you got into photography and stuff like that.
You know, from as far as I can remember, I started with an iPhone. It all started with an iPhone. And I think it's when my nephew was born back in March 24, 2010. You just have this feeling of like you don't want to miss anything. You kind of
Right.
get obsessed with taking photos,
Yeah.
even if they're sleeping, they're awake, all kinds of angles.
Yeah.
And and also I just started noticing things like even like a shadow and light or graffiti out in the BART station. I just started taking photos and start editing on by myself, posted it on my Instagram. It was my old Instagram. And from then on, it just kept building and building and building to me actually getting a camera. Eventually I started taking classes, and after that I started venturing out on my own and basically accepting gigs, taking whatever kind of gigs I can get just to have that experience. You know what I noticed about photography, it's definitely is not about the camera that you have. And social skills is very very important when it comes to like networking, getting the gigs that you really want, and just putting myself out there and having the courage to talk to strangers. I've gone to so many gigs where I don't know a single person,
Right.
but you're there and I have the intention to, take photos, and it's a good time at the end of the day because people want photos. And really just putting myself out there and following my bliss, right? Even though like it's like me traveling by myself in a different country, it's kind of scary. Going to an event when you don't know anybody is kind of like I do what I do is like I look at myself in the mirror and be like, take a deep breath, and I'm like, let's go. I'm ready. So a lot of it is just like psychology, social skills, and I think I'm just inspired by like whatever I see. I was just looking at the window before we even started the podcast, and just looking at how like the sun is just like about to go down, and the outside looks yellow or orange. And
Right.
that's art. Art could be anything, right? And
That's
then from
that's
then
nature's
on, it's
art.
just what's that?
That's nature's art.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
natural. It's art is natural. And it's just like me wanting to learn more of the technical things like the settings and this and that, different lightings. To me, it's a lifetime thing. It's a lifetime journey because
Right.
there's so many things you can learn with photography. And then for me, being single, it definitely helped me a lot to just focus on and nurture my passions instead of, like paying attention to another human being. I'm like here nurturing what I enjoy the most and what I really like. So being single definitely helped me a lot. And yeah, it definitely helped me a lot to just nurture my passions.
Yeah, that's a good point. You said a couple things. So you started on your iPhone, and
Yeah.
what I love about the iPhone is that it actually can make anybody a decent photographer because it fixes all the color settings and all that. Like because when you're using a professional camera, like there's a
Mhm.
lot of work that goes into that, like
Yeah.
aperture and light speed and lenses and all that. But what I love what you said is like, hey, I just started with the iPhone, but you made an important point, which I have too. You just started capturing moments. Like
Mm.
I'll just be walking and I'll be like, oh, that's a good picture, or oh, that's a good picture. So you're right. Like, I mean, obviously you were passionate for it and you became obsessed with it, but you also, I think, have to have kind of the artistic eye. You know what I mean? Because like I'll have some people, I won't name any names. My dad, he would take a picture of me and like my head cut off or like the background. I'm like, Dad, like why aren't you like trying to capture the background, but
Mm.
he's just a point and shoot guy, and nothing wrong with that. He's cool, right? But then there's people that have the eye, you know what I mean, and they see
Mm.
it and they're trying to look magic. Woo, woo, woo. They're
Mm.
trying to like just capture this moment, and it just hits you somehow. Is that kind of how it is for you? Like you'll just
Yeah.
and then it just hits you, and you're like, I got to take a picture of this. Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah. It
Yeah,
does like hit me like, oh, like I get present as soon as I see something like, wow, look at that. Boom. Let's take a photo.
yeah,
And I think photography is such an important thing to have in our lives. Think about it, the history. Like you would have known what the hell happened back in 1900s or 1950s. Having the image or videos or whatever, it makes it even more like, wow, this actually happened during that time. And you think about the photojournalism, like people from different countries, we don't know what's happening unless we have videos, we have photos, and the reporters. So photography is an important thing to have in our lives, no matter, I don't know, no matter what genre you're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point too. You're right. I mean, there's so many moments captured in time that
Mm.
if it wasn't for the photographer being there and capturing that moment, like that maybe like, wars have been stopped or genocide has been stopped or just, capturing a picture of Marilyn Monroe doing a certain pose or like you're absolutely right. And I think that's kind of been lost ever since the smartphones came along because nobody like has photo albums anymore. They just snap
Mm.
pictures and it's in their phone. And if they don't keep it on a cloud or drive somewhere, it just kind of gets lost in the sauce like a meatball, right?
Yeah, we're spoiled.
Yeah,
We're spoiled on how many photos we can take because we have so many unlimited spaces. Now
yeah,
I'm practicing to intentionally take a photo. If I'm gonna delete it, then it doesn't matter. Like, am I gonna keep it or delete it? Right?
yeah,
That's what I used to have 4,000 freaking photos and videos on my phone. Like, what am I doing? Like,
yeah,
why? And then you got to go through them and see what you really want to
yeah,
keep. And the whole thing about photo albums, I haven't had a family photo album since I was younger, since I was a kid.
yeah, me too.
That's one of my projects, to actually print photos of me and my family and just to have a physical copy. It actually makes a difference when you're holding a piece of photography, a photo
Yeah,
in right in your hands and put them in your wall or whatever. Then because we're so spoiled in condition, like, oh wow, on the screen all the time, to me it kind of loses its appeal. That's why I think for me, that's why I go to art museums, art galleries. Like I see the image or the artwork right in front of me. It makes a big difference.
yeah. That's another great point. I never thought about that, but because we have photos in excess and you can just take, like you said, like, I don't even want to know how many photos I have on my phone, you know what I mean? But like, literally, I think I need to go, if I went through my photos, I'd probably have to delete maybe 75% of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of doubles and there's a lot of photos I don't even use, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But we do kind of become like photo hoarders, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
because like you have
Yeah.
so much, right? When back in the day it was like whatever film you could do or
Mm.
like I remember the disposable cameras, you could only take like 25 pictures and that was it. So you kind of,
Yeah.
you're right, you were more intentional with your photos.
Yeah, very intentional, and you prepare yourself and not get trigger happy and take a lot of photos because I mean, I'm a victim of that myself. I take so many photos, it's ridiculous. Like, wow, I delete so much, you know what I mean? And the other thing is that, like, like I said, I've taken so many photos throughout the years. Now I'm all about like, what can I do? What can I capture and make an impact? And we've talked about in the Bliss Seekers about making an impact, right? Making an impact around the world. Like, why not use my gifts and my talents that's, still growing and evolving and, capturing and helping those people with the images that I produce. Because when I went to Guatemala, even the Philippines, it was like, wow, all these kids, I have images of kids just playing around like in the rain, no slippers, playing, don't know how to speak English whatsoever, and they're just happy doing the most simple things in life, right? So that inspired me as well. Like, and I know poverty. I did grew up a little bit in poverty when I grew up in the Philippines until I was 10 years old. We didn't even have air conditioned house or like well, when we shower, the water's always cold because like what's the point of having hot shower anyway? Like, you know what I mean? We
Because it's
use
so
this
hot over
this
there.
tub and this thing
Yeah,
it's called tabo.
yeah,
Uh yeah, and then yeah, it's a luxury having cold water because it's hot as hell
yeah,
out in the Philippines. So in a way, it's like I'm going back to my roots of how it was, right? How it was in the Philippines for me, and just being able to like, wow, what can I do to give back? And I love traveling, and I had this idea of having a photo exhibition, and just most of the profits or some of the profits to most is like going back to this community and that community wherever I go and take photos, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Once things start opening up, and then photo books as well. So to me, it's just like making an impact and doing what I love to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a philanthropic giving heart always, because every time I talk to you, you're always like, I want to help others. And, I mean, you just said basically a certain percentage of everything you do is going to give back to whatever,
Yeah.
country or cause or whatever you're going to help. Where do you think the philanthropy came from or started? Because I know a lot of people say they want to help and they're philanthropic, but when it comes down to it, like, I think it's really truly a part of you, and you're really passionate about it. So where do you think that philanthropic spirit came from?
Wow, that's a good question, man. I think like even growing up in the Bay, right? Like I was raised by a single mother, right? There are times where we look in the fridge, there's nothing to eat. You know what I mean? It's like, also there's people in the Philippines calling us for help. So in a way, I grew up in a struggle as well. Like, I'm doing way better now, but I know what struggle is. And we do have a lot of relatives in the Philippines, my cousins, my aunts, who are just living in poverty, right?
Yeah.
I think it just come down to family, family roots, and I just want to help my family. That's
Yeah.
the first, they're the first community I want to help, is my family. um yeah, because I visiting the Philippines, I see how they live, where they live, and how much water, how much food and stuff like that. It definitely goes back to family. I
Yeah.
think that's where it came from.
That's awesome. And like, you said something important too. Like, you never forgot where you came from. Like,
Hmm.
like, even though you're here in California, in the Bay Area, and
Yeah.
you've pretty much lived most of your life in the Bay Area, right?
Mhm.
But that's very important, because they say in order for you to never lose who you are, you got to never forget where you came from. And you just basically said, I remember struggle. I remember, growing up in the Philippines, and I remember struggling here, even in the United States, because your mom was a single mother, and then obviously, you just never forgot that, right? And so,
Yeah.
no matter how good you're doing, obviously we can always do better. But that's awesome that you kept that groundness, that, like, where you come from, and then obviously, having family that's still struggling out there, it kind of
Mhm.
reminds you too, like, I'm pretty blessed to be here in the
Mhm.
United States, and following my bliss, and hosting a podcast for almost a year, and now doing
Mhm.
Artcation. But you still want to give back, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, I do. It does fulfill me when I can help people without expecting anything in return. I think I've had this intention since 2019, where like I just want my art. I want my art to help people.
Hmm.
Obviously, I want to be able to take care of myself at the same time to be able to give to others.
Yeah. And so you have Artcation, and you did your photography, but it also says you're passionate about alternative medicine, fitness. So let's talk about alternative medicine and plant medicine and stuff like that. I know you've been working in alternative medicine for a while. Where did that passion for alternative medicine come from?
Well, let's put it back this way. About more than 7 years ago, when I feel like crap, like I was in my younger 20s, I was like, dang, what am I doing wrong? Like, I mean, I knew what I was doing wrong. I would party with friends every weekend. And even though I would work out, like, um, during the week, party on the weekends, and then I got into a relationship when we just like basically not work out, not have any fitness, and just got into comfortable to the point like, man, why do I feel like crap? I feel like crap, and I'm in my younger 20s. I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel good at all. So we watched this documentary called Vegucated on Netflix, right? Because my intention was I want to live a healthier lifestyle.
Right.
Watch Vegucated, and it's about educating us of what really happens with the animals, and to the environment as well, and to our bodies, right? So at that time, I was a vegetarian with my girl. At that time, we were vegetarians for like a week. I remember looking at my face, I'm like, wow, I'm so pale. But right, and now, you know what, like, I'm gonna do pescatarian. I could do pescatarian, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
And then I just became a pescatarian for about 7 years, even though during those times I would eat vegan food and vegetarian food, right? And you know, throughout those 7 years, I wanted to know what other ways can I do to heal myself, doing natural medicine, right? That's why when I got to natural medicine back in maybe 2013, I started working for this company in Berkeley, and basically, my coworkers all they're like herbalists and they know acupuncture and stuff like that. Basically, healthier living, healthier lifestyle. So that's when I basically got exposed to all like the herbs and the supplements, homeopathic, to doing acupuncture, um, body work, different modalities when it comes to healing, right?
Hmm.
Because I do notice I am aware of people. I've seen people around me who are medication,
Yeah.
and then there's side effects. So what is the point when you're on medication for long term and you have all these side effects, right? So it's like harming you. It doesn't make sense to me. Why do that? So everything starts with intention for me, right? I was like, I want to be healthier, live a healthier lifestyle, and so I can inspire my own family and others to do the same. Everything just kept lining up, and lining up. Me getting exposed to different natural remedies and natural healing. And then 7 years, 8 years later, I decided to go vegan completely. And, it's just educating myself. And it's just like also, I believe that food is medicine if you're eating the right foods, right? So that's yeah, like I love acupuncture. That's alternative medicine. I love anything that's growing in earth,
Yeah.
growing from earth. It's all natural and organic. So that's what I am passionate about as well.
Yeah, they say that there's an herb or a plant that can heal almost every ailment, or maybe even every ailment in the human body. Not like one, but there's certain every herb has a purpose to cure something in our
Mm,
body. You know what I mean? There's plants for all of that, but it's funny because it's not funny. We all kind of know why. Big pharma and all that. They don't want us to heal. Nobody wants you healthy, right? There's no money
mm,
in that, right? But I do share the same passion for you because with you, because my mom and we know this other acupuncture guy. He was trained in China and France, and he healed me of some chronic back pain that I had for 15 years with herbal teas, right? Like
mm,
he helped my mom she had really bad anemia problems, and obviously the Western medicine and Kaiser was pumping her with iron pills, and then the side effects would happen and she'd feel worse. And then
mm,
he gives her these herbal teas and her iron counts jump like 50 times higher than they were, and the doctors don't know what's going on, right? So I agree with you with that. And, I hope that there's an awakening that's starting to happen and people are just getting a little bit wiser and smarter about their health, and, and about not just jump into the meds so easily. It's
yeah.
just, and I know a lot of us are trained and doctors are trained, but I hope one day at least the world's a little bit better as far as, people understanding there is ways to help yourself and cure yourself. You don't have to, you know, get on the pills and the medications that are just going to make it worse. They're not going to heal anything. They're just going to treat
Mm.
it, and and then just going to make it worse. So, well, that's awesome. And so, travel. Talk about travel. So, is it going to be all with Artcation, or are you going to be doing some travel independently as well? Do you have any plans for that?
I do have a desire to live in Italy for like 6 months.
That's really cool, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have an aunt with her wife that lives in Rome. I was supposed to visit them, and obviously a pandemic. Just to experience that, at least 6 months. And even learn some photography out there because they do have photography classes and schools and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I do want to live in Italy and for 6 months one of these days. I want to go to Egypt, Morocco, different parts of Asia, different parts of Latin America. Um, it's like when I travel, I don't want to just travel just for fun. Like I want to do something creative. I want to do something that contributes to the community. and just having that intention out there, having that energy, like, hey, something's cool's gonna happen, right? And I met so many people in Guatemala that I feel really connected to, and I, when I go back there, I want to go say hi to them and let them know, like, hey, I'm back. Um, it's like I feel like they say home is where your heart is, but my heart wants. My heart is the world, basically. Like every place I go, like I will have a piece of my heart, over there.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. You said they say home is where your heart is, but my heart is all over the world. What'd you say?
Yeah,
Wow,
all over the world. I want to go.
that's cool. But actually, I want to talk about that. So, living 6 months in Rome would be an amazing idea. And the reason why is, like you said, you're just a 2 to 3 hour plane flight from like every other country in Europe. You
Mm,
know what I mean?
right.
And you don't really get to know a place until you spend like extended time there. Because I've been in
Mm,
Hawaii now close to 2 months, right? So,
mm,
like, I've pretty much seen almost everything. And tomorrow I'm excited. We're going to the Big Island to see the volcanoes. And I didn't get to see Jurassic Park because the Raptor tour is what I wanted to do, but that's booked all the way till like July. You know what I mean?
mm,
But if you stay in a place for an extended period of time, and there's this other YouTuber guy that talks about it, you really get to know the culture, you get to know the people, like you really get an experience, you know what I mean?
mm.
Like you immerse yourself there. Like you'll probably speak like 25% of Italian when you come back, and you'll have some great friends out there. You'll learn some stuff. So, and you'll also get to pop back and forth to all the other different countries in Europe if you wanted to.
Oh
You know?
yeah, that's right. It's pretty close.
Yeah,
There
like
you go. Yeah.
every 2 weeks you could jump to a different country. You could go visit, Italy. Sorry, you can visit France, England. You can even
Mm.
hop over to Africa, North Africa, like you wanted to.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's
That's
not
pretty
that
close.
far. It's a couple hour plane flights. So if you're going to be there for 6 months, that would be a great idea. And
Yeah.
if you go to the Philippines, like we've talked about many times, you can go all through Southeast Asia and all those countries just from the Philippines.
Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna want to explore Philippines though. there's like so many islands, and the coconuts. Oh man, the coconut trees are free. The coconuts are free. Thank you for tuning in. That was the end of part 1. Part 2 comes out next Monday, 9 a.m. Please stay tuned.
Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when the next one comes out.